Insurance Company and affiliate.
I'm Mike Gavin in for Gordon Deal. Monday on This Morning, America's First News. More states are considering redistricting. Who wins and loses if every state gets their way? We'll examine. Plus, why rising unemployment among black Americans could be an early sign of economic strain. And how to ditch the maze of online job postings and go more old school with your approach. All that and more when Gordon returns Monday on This Morning, America's First News.
Monday morning from 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
It's time for the Garden Guide with your host, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
New research suggests that people are more likely to eat vegetables if they have a tempting name.
What would life be without homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
From gardening to landscaping.
Today we are going to try and create garden eyebrows. Kind of like the flowers are sprouting directly from your hair. That makes sense.
Phone lines are open at 753-KVNU or 800-369-KVNU.
Kind of like eating vegetables.
It's the Garden Guide, now on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
And we welcome you to the Garden Show here on a beautiful Saturday morning and a brisk Saturday morning. It's a little chilly out there this morning as I was moving the sprinklers around to water the fruit trees. It's getting a little cold.
You know, for the 9th of August, 40s, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, we were just taking our temperature readings this morning for the National Weather Service. We hit 42 outside
degrees.
The KVNU studios.
A little brisk, It did feel really good last night, though.
It did.
You could really feel the temperature drop, and we left the windows open, and I actually had to snuggle up in my blanket last night.
It's a great thing, and you start to feel that the seasons are changing just a little bit. I mean, we're still in August, and there's still some really hot temperatures coming. But
we haven't hit 100, though.
No.
Cache Valley has not hit 100. I think our high was 96.
Let's see. We have we have been in the high 90s. I want to say 98.
Yeah.
I think probably.
But still, no hundreds is sensational, and it's been great for the plants to grow too. Like the gardens are growing really, really well. In fact, I would say some things are maturing a little bit quicker. Like my potatoes are dying down, and my onions are kind of dying down as well too. And I'm not sure if that's because of irregular watering because of the caretaker, or if it's because of something else. Mm-hmm. But we're harvesting. Some of our donut peaches are coming on. They're like, so they're ready. We've been harvesting apricots too. We've got a later variety of apricot. And they've been pretty good. Not too bad. Like really, really productive. There was a lot of fruit on there, and so we were quite pleased with their production.
And when it comes to fruit, and this is a question that we were looking at, we had this small peach tree that we planted 3 years ago that was just overloaded, and I thinned it, and then I thought it was good, and then I thinned it again, and I thought it was good, and now I've looked at it again and thought I should have
pulled some more off.
And because the fruit as it's come on, they just have not really grown to the full size. They're still pretty small.
They're there, but they're just not the size.
But
that
they have
ought
a
to be.
gorgeous color.
Nice color.
And it made me wonder though, at what point do you start to pick them, because they're still pretty hard?
Yeah. If they're really firm, they're not ready. It depends on the varieties. So like. Red Haven usually comes on the first part of August. Okay. And so I've got a donut peach. It's a white donut peach, and it usually comes on the first part of August too. So we know that's going to happen. But then if you've got other peaches, they're going to progressively come on a little bit later, because Red Haven is about as early as it gets. And so by the end of this month, we may have some. Early Albertas are usually the first week of September. Okay. And then the regular Albertas are like the third week of September. So somewhere in that, in the next 6 weeks is really when your peaches are going to be ready. And they will detach fairly easily from the tree. And you don't want to like squish them so your finger goes through them, but you want to have a little bit of give on the exterior of the fruit. And so then you can tell. People bring me apples all the time. They're like, "Can you tell me if this is ripe?" And I'm like, "Let's try it." And I cut into it, and it's like I always look at the seeds first to see if the seeds are dark color. And if the seeds are dark color, then we'll eat it, and then I can usually kind of identify it from the coloring and from the texture and from the flavor, and like depending on how quickly it browns. You know, there's a lot of characteristics we can tell on the apples. Peaches are a little harder. They're harder to tell which one.
Which are which.
Yeah, it usually has more to do with like, okay, they're ripening about this time. It could be this one, this one, this one, or this one. You know, and so then it's a little bit more difficult to try and identify those. But I will always make an attempt if you bring me a ripe fruit to see if I can tell what kind it is. So.
Yeah. Well, there's just all sorts of great fruit right now. I grabbed some watermelon this morning for breakfast that my wife had picked up at the store yesterday. It was just delicious.
You're just like, oh, this is like really good.
Yeah.
There's nothing like fruit in season.
Yep.
You know, and we're spoiled because we can go to the grocery store. We can pretty much buy, you know, whatever any time of year because, you know, we're shipping stuff in from South America or from Central America. And so the seasons are very, very different. But there's just something about shipping it even, you know, a few hundred miles. It starts to lose quality. And it's not quite the same as going out and just like picking it right in your backyard and bringing it inside and eating. And the quality and the flavor and the nutrition is just that much better for you. And so right now it's like a sensational time of year because we're picking fruit, we're picking vegetables like crazy. I decided I would try my carrots last night to see how they are because I did a new variety of carrots this year, and it was supposed to be like a really, really sweet, high quality carrot. And so I kind of dug down a little bit, and I saw a couple that were pretty good size. So I pulled it out, and it was probably 6 or 7 inches long and nice and cylindrical, blocky shape. I was like, ooh, we're going to try that one. And so we ate it, and it had that little bit of green flavor to it. Like it wasn't quite ready yet because it's not quite. It's only been about 75, 80 days, and the carrots are usually ready about 80, 85, 90, you know, somewhere around there. And so it could probably use a few more weeks of growing, but I ate it, and it was really good.
Still pretty good.
It was really good. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, it was really good. Hey, at Anderson's this weekend, a lot of great things happening. So cash sale is going on. So we started the cash sale last week. It continues to go. So we are at 25% off all of our trees, evergreens, flowering trees, fruit trees, shrubs, roses, 25% off. But if you pay with cash, you get an extra 10%.
Okay.
And so you get that extra 10. So really, if you pay with cash, it's 35% off on all those plants. And we have a great selection right now. We've got some gorgeous trees. We've got some really nice shrubs. There's some great roses, some good looking evergreens. And there's stuff out there that I just am looking at it going, why are you still here? You know, somebody should have taken you home already. Why are you still here? Yeah, you should be planted at someone's house. So come in, take advantage of the cash sale, and you get that extra 10% off if you pay with cash. So 25% off, extra 10 if you pay with cash. We do have some clearance plants that we're getting rid of too. So some perennials that are like $3 that have bloomed out. We've got, I mean, there's some really great deals. The only thing out in the parking lot that's not on sale is the hanging baskets that we use to replace the damaged ones on Center Street and Main Street. If something happens to one of the drippers, it's crazy how fast those baskets will just croak.
Dry out.
Yeah. So it's like we're out there twice a week watering, and we'll go check them at least once or twice other days throughout the week. And all it takes is, you know, we go and we check them on Saturday, and then Sunday the dripper's not working, and so they don't get watered on Sunday. And then by Monday afternoon, when we go check them again, they're just like almost dead. And you're just like, oh my gosh, it's like we just checked it on Saturday, and here it is Monday, and it's like and so we have a series of extras to replace some of the baskets with, so they look really good. Unfortunately, we've got a couple dripper systems that are not working, and they go up through the poles where the light poles are. So they go up in there, and so if there is no water coming out, we'll just take the baskets down, because then we basically have to go hand water them like every single day.
That's 2 to 3 times a day.
And so we just can't put that kind of manpower into it, because we're already putting about 20 hours a week into maintaining the baskets and the planters and stuff on Center Street. So we're putting, you know, a lot of time into making those look good. So if you notice a few a few light poles that don't have baskets on them. It's because the drippers just aren't working on them. So we got to get them fixed and get those replaced. But it's crazy with the wind and the heat that we've had. It will dry them out really in just over 24 hours. Like 36 hours is about their max. And that's after, conditioning the soil so it'll hold moisture and watering them. They're really thoroughly on Saturday afternoon. But if they go all day Sunday and they go Monday and those drippers aren't working, then they don't look good. Yeah, they just don't look very good. So that's how that works.
All right.
We should get some phone calls today.
Yes. We're looking for calls, questions, comments. If you have something you'd like to talk about here on the Garden Guide on this Saturday morning, phone lines are open at 753 KVNU. That's 753-5868. And phone lines open. Yeah. Call in with your questions.
This is the last week for compost tea.
Okay.
Yeah. So usually we get to the end of the second week of August. We're extending a little bit this year, so we're to we'll hit the third weekend. So if we go through next weekend, we'll probably run out about next weekend. So I was looking at what our supplies are on the compost tea, and we'll probably run out this weekend.
Okay.
Not this weekend. Next weekend.
Yeah.
So next
weekend will be done.
Is when we're pretty much done. So what is it? The 16th. I think it's the 16th that looks like we're probably going to run out of compost tea. So if you want to use your compost tea, it's kind of getting down towards the end of the season of growing stuff anyway. So I have fertilized my tomatoes pretty much for the last time for this year, and I'm starting to let them really go longer between waterings. So I watered them and fed them. What was it on? I think it was on Tuesday, and I'm trying to push them an extra day or two before they get watered again.
So that they'll ripen up.
Yeah, to get them to ripen up, and they are starting to ripen like crazy. So all of a sudden the tomatoes are kicking in and ripen up like mad. And seeing a little bit of disease, like customers are bringing some diseased tomatoes in that have like a little bit of bacterial speck on them or black spot. And so we're seeing a little bit of disease showing up. I've got one Cherokee purple tomato at home that is looking like it might have a little bit of verticillium showing up, and it's probably the most susceptible plant to disease, and so it's looking like maybe it's picked up a little bit of something. But the rest of the plants all look great at my house, so I'm a little disappointed with the Cherokee purple, but it's not unusual
for that.
No, unfortunately that variety just picks up every single disease that's out there. And so I think even my plant last year bit the dust. So that's how it works out. But starting to see diseases. So this is a great time of year to try and prevent some fall diseases. So powdery mildew is going to start showing up. And so even though the humidity is really low, I think we'll start getting some thunder showers start to roll through. When that happens, then we start to see powdery mildew showing up. And whatever we're using to control the mildew is really good to use on the tomatoes for the black speck and the bacterial spot on the tomatoes. And so it would not hurt to use, like, say, fungicide 5 or copper soap would be really good to try and control powdery mildew before it gets started. In fact, I think I saw one of my winter squash had a little bit showing up on it yesterday. So I'll probably try and spray it this weekend. Definitely don't want that transferring to my giant pumpkins.
Oh yeah,
that would be bad news. Bad news.
And it seems like Fertiloom has an all-in-one disease control.
There's a couple different ones. So like the F-stop is really good because that's safe to use on edibles and it's systemic, and so the systemic really does a great job on those. But it's safe to use on edibles. If you want to go organic, then I would do fungicide 5 or the copper soap. Yeah, and those are super effective, but also safe to use right up to the minute you're going to harvest. You don't have a limitation from when you spray to when you harvest. Yeah. And so you could use those on your squashes, melons, cucumbers for powdery mildew, and then you could go use it on your tomatoes or your peppers for some of the diseases that are starting to show up late season on those as well too. And that we could see powdery mildew showing up in the apples. We can see that happening. We are starting to see a lot of aphids. So all of a sudden, aphids are starting to show up, and it's because of the cooler nighttime temperatures. So cooler nighttime temperatures, even though it's been hot during the day, those nighttime temperatures, they start to drop, and then all of a sudden you get a huge outbreak of aphids again. So we're starting to see aphids. A lot of customers are coming in and they're bringing samples. It's like, oh, you have a lot of green aphids. It's like they're just like covering the leaves. And so, again, for like safe insecticides, we'd be talking, the new Bug Blaster from High Yield. So the Bug Blaster Lambda would be great. The 7 would be good. Bifenthrin, permethrin. And those are all, again, safe for edibles as well as for ornamentals. And so you use that on your flowers. You can use it on shrubs. You could use it on, right now we're seeing aphids on cabbage like crazy. So we got cabbage plants. Yeah, the aphids are just loving the cabbage. And then roses. We've seen a lot of them on roses and thrips. I've seen quite a few samples of thrips in the roses. So once the thrips get in the roses, they're really hard to control, except for with a systemic insecticide. So you've got to use a systemic on those, which we would not recommend that you use on your edibles. Then the insecticide ends up in your fruit.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely don't want that.
435-753-5868 is the phone number if you got a question, a comment for Mark Anderson of Anderson Seed and Garden. Now, you were mentioning that compost tea will be likely drying up next weekend, but for people who are looking for a great alternative, even after that compost tea is gone, we were talking about before, mycorrhiza, Bigfoot. Those kind of things. My daughter and I, we were fertilizing the fruit trees last night, and we've got a couple newer fruit trees and treating them still with Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And it just amazes me how this little apricot tree, in 6 months, it's just been taken off.
It makes a huge, huge difference. And I spoke with Dan, who is one of the principal owners of Bigfoot, and they're coming for the Pumpkin Festival.
Oh, that'll be cool.
So he's going to come down for the Pumpkin Festival. So we are super excited about them coming for the Pumpkin Festival, and he's going to bring samples and have
to try
stuff
out.
for people to try. So that will be great to have them there.
I have to say though, the one thing that I've learned is I'd mentioned before, we'd never been able to plant peppers in our garden.
Oh, yeah, right.
Peppers just always, they'd come up, they'd dry up, and they were dead in a week. And so we had planted these pepper plants the same time we put in this new apricot tree, treated it with Bigfoot, and I've got peppers growing like zucchinis. I'm eating peppers every day for lunch.
That's the way we like it. Yeah.
I went out again last night, and there's 12 more I've got to pick today. So
I had a spot this year for my peppers set aside, and my daughter wanted to plant a few hot peppers. So we've got some habaneros, and we've got some Carolina Reapers. I mean, some evil peppers in there.
Really hot ones.
But then I ended up having a little bit more space and a few extra plants. So I was like, oh, what the heck? I'll just plant all these. So I planted about 12 gypsy peppers, and every one of them is just absolutely covered with fruit. And I'm just like, dang, it's like, we're never going to eat all these. They're just going crazy. So we ate one the other day, and it was still pretty green. And we want them to start to color up. And that's when they're really good, is when they start to change color and they start to turn orange. And then they start to turn red. So gypsy peppers, if you've never grown a gypsy before, gypsies are kind of a lime green or yellowish lime green color to them when they're not ripe. But then when they start to transition to like orange, that's one of their mature colors, and the orange ones are really, really good. But when you let them transition from orange to red, then they're like dripping sugar. They're just so sweet and so good, but they've got that little bit of pepper flavor, but they're perfect to like put in with onions and potatoes and a little bit of ham and do like a skillet and throw a little bit of cheese on top of it. And it's just like, so good.
And that's what
it's called gypsy. It's gypsy. And gypsy is a 2-lobed pepper instead of a 4-lobed. Like a bell pepper has 4 chambers to it, like a heart. The gypsy only has 2 chambers to it. So it's a more narrow pepper. It looks kind of like a banana pepper, but it's not as skinny as a banana pepper. They're a little bit more blocky, but they have 2 chambers to them. And they'll start out yellow, and they're not bad when they're yellow, but if you let them go orange, then they're like, oh, these are so good. And then you let them mature just a little bit longer, and they'll start to transition to red. And then when they're red, it's just like you just go eat them like out of the garden, because they're just so sweet and so good. But I love to skillet those with the onions and the potatoes, and throw a little bit of ham in there, and you could throw a little zucchini in if you want some extra vegetables in there, and so then you have this really nice skillet dish and with a little bit of cheese on top of it too.
Very cool.
Perfect. Yeah.
Well, it's a great weekend in Cache Valley because we've got, of course, the Cache County Fair and Rodeo continuing today.
Right.
Cache County Fairgrounds.
Forgetting that the fair's going on.
Yeah. Goes on till it'll be going on till about 11 o'clock tonight. Final night for the rodeo tonight. A patriotic night, if I remember right. And then also, in addition to that, of course, you have the Cache Valley Gardeners Market that'll be taking place downtown Logan today, and over on the other side of the mountain, Raspberry Days taking place over in Bear Lake.
That was one thing I was thinking about this morning. It's like, man, we should probably talk about raspberries, because if you've got a summer bearing, like a June bearing raspberry, they usually by the end of July they're like done producing. And what I like to do is, if you've got like an ever-bearing variety, they'll kind of produce about the same time that the June-bearing do, and then they take a little bit of a break, and then they come on again in the fall. And so if you really want to get good production out of your raspberries, after they're done producing, whether they're a June-bearing or an ever-bearing, is when you want to cut those old canes out. And so if they have produced fruit, those canes won't produce fruit again. So they're old cane, and they'll just produce the one time, and then when they're done, you cut them down to the ground and get rid of them and let new ones replace them. And it's the new ones that will produce in the fall on the everbearing, and it's the new ones that come up on your June bearing that will produce next year. And so after they're done fruiting, which again is usually about the latter part of July, cut those old canes right down to the ground, get rid of them. And that goes for June bearing as well as ever bearing. And then I like to fertilize them at that point. So I'll get in there and prune the raspberries and prune out all those old canes that have fruited, and then let the new ones, just leave those alone. The ones that have come up this spring, you can tell the difference. They're not as woody. Leave those alone and fertilize them. So ammonium sulfate is a great fertilizer for the raspberries. It's got sulfur in there. It has a nice quick release nitrogen, really encourages some good growth. And then use something with some iron in it as well too. So Iron Plus is really good. Chelated iron. Every time I prune the raspberries, which is usually first thing in the spring and then midsummer, I'll fertilize and use that nitrogen, sulfur, iron combination. And then if they're ever-bearing, you'll get a really good crop this September. And September, they'll just go crazy. And then I don't prune mine in the fall. You can if you want to, but what happens, at least for me, is if I trim them down to like 3 or 4 feet and just take the tops off, then there's a little bit of damage in the wintertime. And then I have to prune them again the next spring. And so then I end up having to do the same work twice, and I don't like doing that. And so I just kind of leave them in the fall unless they're really, really tall and they need to be trimmed back, since they could get damaged in the wintertime. I'll just leave them alone. And then in the spring, I'll trim them down to about that 3 feet length, and then fertilize at that point. And when you fertilize them, then they get lots of nice new growth that comes out of those old canes. And then the new ones, the new shoots start to come up from the ground. And it's those older canes that will produce next summer for you again. So whether it's a June bearing or an ever bearing, you can prune them that way, so you can get those 2 crops out of an ever bearing or 1 really heavy crop out of the June bearing. But I try not to prune much in the fall, only if necessary. And then I prune in the spring. And then when I'm done pruning in the spring, then I'll fertilize. And then in the summer, take all those old canes out that have produced and then fertilize them again. And then you'll get a really good fall crop, or you'll be ready for spring.
Really good fertilizer.
Depending on which variety you have. So good way to go. And I've got a new variety of raspberries that I brought in this year just to try. And I can't remember the name of it. I've got them at home. I've got 10 plants. And since my garden was all torn up last year for construction, I haven't been able to get them planted yet, so I'm kind of disappointed because I wanted to try them. They're supposed to be really, really good, and they looked amazing. But my Joan Jays look really good. So
all right,
gotta love it.
So great way to help bring on some fruit for the raspberries.
Correct.
Heavy on the fertilizer, and of course compost tea.
Compost tea is really good for
fertilizer.
Yeah.
Great on raspberries, Bigfoot and mycorrhiza. That'd be always really good for raspberries. They always are a big connoisseur of iron.
Yes.
And they love the iron.
Yeah. Yep. I've got to have the iron. Raspberry days over in Bear Lake. So great.
All right, well, when we come back, answering the question of, is it too late to plant? We'll get to that coming up next here on The Garden Guide on KVNU. 30 minutes now after the hour, and with your KVNU News headlines, I'm Will Theelwright. A 14-year-old girl who went missing during a family camping trip in the Uinta Mountains has been found safe. Maya was last seen at around 10 a.m. Thursday after leaving her family's campsite near the Kidney Lakes area in the Painter Basin to use the restroom. Now, her sister, Brittany Swiss, had confirmed Friday morning that Maya had been located. Now, the Duchesne County Sheriff's Office launched an extensive search operation, deploying crews on foot, horseback, and in helicopters in the remote and densely forested area. Now, before the teen was found, Swiss said officials were optimistic about finding her, stating it was uncommon for people to not be found in such situations. Now, the sheriff's office had advised against additional civilian searches to avoid complicating the search from the air. Now, details of how Maya was found were not immediately released. And a wildfire that forced the evacuations of campers in the high Uinta wilderness is continuing to grow as firefighters across the state are bracing for more challenging winds. The Beulah fire has already burned approximately 1,400 acres. Now it's being fueled by strong winds and low humidity, and the blaze has also prompted the evacuation of nearly 100 campers this past week. Now nearly 150 personnel are now assigned to the fire, with some of them being focused on protecting nearby structures. Meanwhile, crews are fighting the state's largest fire, the Monroe Canyon Fire, and are preparing for more cold and dry conditions. Now, the fire, which has burned over 67,000 acres, is over 20% contained. Well, weather-wise, we're going to see some cooler temperatures over the next several days, as highs expected to stay right around the mid to high 80s, overnight temperatures down into the low 50s. And I'm Will Theelwright with your KVNU News headlines.
I'm Jim Basketball. Start off with pigskin preseason from the NFL. Shedeur Sanders got his first chance to make an impression for the Browns under center.
Shedeur, shotgun, Marshall into the game. Larvidan right to the short side left. Shedeur under pressure. Shedeur gunning, end zone, sliding, catch, that's a touchdown. Put him up. It's another one for Caden Davis.
Yes, indeed. One of 2 scoring strikes for Sanders, one of 3 touchdown drives as well. Browns get a 30-10 win over the Panthers. He hit on 14 of 23 passes for 138 through the air. The preseason game between the Lions and Falcons suspended in the 4th quarter after Lions safety Maurice Norris was taken off the field in an ambulance with a serious injury. Tom Brady's statue unveiled outside of the Patriots Gillette Stadium on Friday. Rookie Trevion Henderson went 100 yards on a kickoff return to start the game, while Drake May in from 5 yards on a touchdown run. Patriots all over the Commanders 48-18. On the diamond, Max Scherzer, Clayton Kershaw matching up, going toe-to-toe for 6 innings on Friday. Scherzer, 465th career start. Kershaw, 443. It was Kershaw and the Dodgers to get a 5-1 win. He gets career win number 218, same as Scherzer, both with 3 Cy Youngs. Meantime, this is how the Mets and Brewers ended.
1-1 pitch. Flair, shallow center, base hit. Marte's being set. Here's the throw from Perkins. It is going to be in time! Game over! Blake Perkins says goodnight.
How about that? 620 WTMJ, 7 straight wins for Milwaukee, 3-2 over New York. Kyle Schwarber, 41st home run. Phillies 9-1 over the Rangers. Cal Raleigh, 43rd 3-run shot. M's over the Rays, 3-2.
The Above and Beyond Salute.
Hello? Brad Worston, this is Will Theelwright. Somebody nominated you, bro.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they contacted us and said, Brad's an amazing person who represents not only Utah, but Cache Valley everywhere he goes. And they also talked about all of the crazy stuff you love to do in Plains. So we've got a $40 gift card for you to Firehouse Subs.
Awesome.
You're amazing. Crazy, but amazing.
Well, thank you.
The Above and Beyond Salute, sponsored by Firehouse Subs on News Talk KVNU. From gardening to landscaping, it's the Garden Guide on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
And welcome back to the Garden Guide. You're on KVNU. 834 now has made it up into the 50s. And I was looking earlier, Mark, you were asking.
It's like going to be balmy today. 50s.
Lowest temperature, we hit 42 this morning. And the high temperature so far that we have recorded for the National Weather Service here at the KVNU studios, 96.
Yeah.
So
96 for the year
has been the high. Now there are other temperature settings throughout the stations throughout the valley, and I know some of them have hit triple digits, but
warmer.
So far, KVNU has not cracked 100. So
that's exceptional.
Yeah. We'll
nice.
definitely take it.
And as I recall, last time we talked weather, you were saying July was about 2 or 3 degrees cooler than average.
Yep.
And I would suspect August has been equally as cool so far. We're almost 10 days in. So, and if we have 3 days in the low 80s, that will affect that even a little bit more. So
I think the biggest thing, though, is it's been exceptionally dry.
Yeah,
we
dry.
had just 0.02 of an inch of moisture for July. And so, overall, very, very dry soil conditions right now throughout the area. And that's,
I can tell
concern.
in my garden I had to water a section that I tilled up that we're going to plant bush beans in, and it was pretty darn dry.
Yeah.
It was pretty dry.
And that brings us to a great question that we just had call in during the break and didn't want to hold on the line because they were on a cell phone.
Yeah.
They were asking the question, is it too late to plant bush beans?
That is a great question. So bush beans take 55 days to produce. So most beans are somewhere in that 55 to 60 day range. So if you plant them today, they'll be producing probably the first or second week of October. And so it just depends on Mother Nature. If we get a frost the end of September, you might be toast. If we don't get frost till the 10th or 15th of October, which is kind of the way it hit last year, you would be just fine. And so we're very borderline whether that's going to happen. It is a great time to plant peas and spinach and lettuce and radishes and cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, kale. Those will all handle frost, and they'll produce all the way through October and even into November and do quite well. So we have a lot of gardeners who love to plant their cold crops right now, first or second week of August, so that they are producing through the fall, so you can recycle and reuse some of that space in your garden. Great way to do that. And I've even got a lot of people that will plant their onions in the next couple of weeks so that they'll be able to winter over and come up next year. So they'll plant them from seed and get them started, and then they'll let them winter over. And then in the spring, they'll just dig up clumps of them and just transplant them where they want them to go. And so they get huge. Like the onions get really, really big and they keep really well. So planting your onions in late summer, so latter part of August, is a great way to save some money because you can do it inexpensively with seed. And usually we'll tell people, hey, pick a spot in your garden where you're not going to till it up, and just do a big block of seeds all together so you have just a whole bunch of green onions there. And then in the spring when they perk up, you can just dig up the clumps and separate them and then transplant them where you want them to go in your garden, but put them in a spot where they're not going to get disturbed for the winter time, and they'll winter over and they'll do great. So like I've got Patterson that's a really long keeper, and we planted Patterson last year, and the Patterson lasted until about June or July. Then they finally started deteriorating. So those were onions that we harvested in August the year before, stored them, and they were still good going into July. So that's how long those will store. I know Dr. Pollard, who used to be in the Hort department at Utah State. Actually, he was in insects. Entomology was his specialty, and he would work on penstemon, and he had some really great specialties that he was working on. But he would plant his onions on the 20th of August every year like clockwork.
20th.
The 20th of August was his selected day. And every year, the day before, like the 18th or 19th, he would come in, buy his onion seeds. He's like, all right, 20th is coming up. I'm planting them in a couple of days, so I'm here to get my seed, and he would bring us in just these massive onions the next year just to share with us because he was very thoughtful, very kind. Yeah. Leonard Pollard.
So bush beans, you can get them in. Now, if we do have an early fall, then you may just want to have some frost cloth possibly to
protect those a little bit.
To protect them a little bit.
Yeah.
But very likely that you should get at least a good couple pickings on some bush beans if you put them in this weekend or next weekend.
Pole beans, no go. Because they take about 85 days, so they're not going to make it. But bush beans,
definitely possible.
50 to 60 days, depending on the variety. So if you get them planted, get them coming up, you could be picking the first week of October, which is, like most years we don't have frost in September, so you're good. But occasionally, 20th, 25th of September, we'll get a first frost. We'll get a first frost, and it does happen sometimes. So,
and if you watch those temperatures, then that's a great time just to throw that frost cloth out over the bush beans, and they should still be fine.
Absolutely, but great time to plant those cold crops. So peas, we're going to plant peas this weekend. I got it all prepped. I tilled it and put fertilizer in and everything. We're going to plant peas this weekend, and spinach, lettuce, radishes, onions, cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, kale.
All of those can go in now.
Those can go in like absolutely right now.
Okay.
Yeah, good time. And don't forget, we've got the cash sale going on at Anderson's. So this weekend and all through next week, everything in our nursery section is 25% off. So that's trees, shrubs, flowering trees, fruit trees, evergreens, roses. They're 25% off. And if you pay with cash, you get an extra 10% off. So they're 35% off. Some great deals. So if you're looking at a tree that's $100, you're going to get it for $65 if you pay with cash. So it saves you quite a bit. And great time for planting. Okay. Really good time for planting. So from now until November is a prime time for planting trees and shrubs. Really great time. And it is absolutely the best time of year to plant grass.
Okay.
Yep. Best time of year for grass.
Okay. So grasses can go in, trees can go in, and there's always, and we've talked in the past about some great ways to be able to help those trees, shrubs, be able to get established. And so 435-753-5868 is the phone number if you have a question, comment for Mark. And also with the temperatures cooling, it's a great time to take care of the weeds in your yard.
Yeah. Normally in August, we're telling people don't spray, because the sprays that take care of weeds in your turf, if the temperatures are really hot in the mid to high 90s, it can damage your grass. So it can really burn your grass. So normally we are telling people don't spray. And here we've got low 80s for the next 3 days. If you have morning glory or spurge or dandelions or thistle or clover, you could absolutely spray today, and then tomorrow water. And you'll get really, really great results. In fact, the best way to control weeds is to put a little bit of fertilizer out there and water thoroughly a day or two before you're going to spray, so that the plants are very healthy at that point. And then they're more susceptible to the herbicide because they've opened up their pores. They're going to accept the herbicide a lot better. Okay. And so you really kind of want to water the day before you spray so that the plants are fully healthy and hydrated, and everybody's happy and feeling good. And then the herbicide is much more effective. So today would be an excellent day to spray for weeds because the temperatures are cooler for the next 2 or 3 days. You will be almost completely unlikely to damage your turf if you're spraying and the temperatures are in the 80s. But then after the 24-hour period when it needs to be absorbed by the plants, go ahead and water your turf, and then you just won't damage the grass at all because the temperatures are much cooler. But I've seen people spray one evening and it's like 70 degrees, and then the next day it goes 100, and that herbicide, what happens is the herbicide's mixed in with water, and so then the water evaporates really quickly when it's hot outside, and then it leaves a more concentrated herbicide because the plant hasn't absorbed it yet, and then the herbicide in that more concentrated form, it burns it. It burns it, and so it's critical that the temperatures are cooler because then the water doesn't evaporate so quickly, and then it's absorbed into the plant before it does any damage. Okay. And so cooler temperatures this weekend. If you have a lot of weeds and you're just like, dang it, I got a lot of weeds I need to get rid. This is the time to spray because we've got cooler temperatures for 3 days. All right. Yeah, 3 days. And you could use weed-free zone. Weed-free zone is like amazing this time of year. So you get some nice low 80-degree temperatures. You're going to just watch those plants curl up in 3 to 6 hours. You know, you'll see quick results. So weed-free zone from Fertilome would be my go-to. If you've got some really hard-to-kill weeds, then I'd maybe go a little stronger. We could go like Spurge Power from Monterey. But for quick results and on most of the hardest-to-kill weeds, especially morning glory, the weed-free zone from Fertilome is absolutely sensational. Yeah. Okay. So you can spray in the morning, watch the weeds die that night. Get it watered the next day, not have any damage show up on your grass, and that would be good. If you have had some damage, let's say you decided you wanted to spray, and then we did hit one of those 96-degree days, and it burnt your grass just a little bit, the best thing to put on there is humate. So the humic would really get the grass to recover a lot faster. So we've been doing a little bit of construction at our house, and our contractor brought in some metal siding or metal roofing, whichever way you want to look at it, to like add to our carport. So we wanted to just kind of like cover a couple sections of our carport a little bit more extensively than what it was. And so he brought 4 panels of steel in, and early morning just laid them on the grass. And as my wife hopped in her car to go to work, she's like, don't let those stay there very long because they're in the shade right now. But in about an hour, they're going to be in the sun, and it's going to fry my grass. And he's like, no problem. I'll get those moved. It's like, well, we're moving pretty quickly. And then we got home from work, and sure enough, there were 4 panels, marked into the turf where it had damaged those. And so when our kids were little, we used to, do the pool parties for birthdays in the middle of summer. It's like my son's birthday was on the 25th of July. And so we'd do the slip and slide, and we'd put the pools out there, and we'd do it for like an hour and a half. And then we'd hurry and take them off so that it wouldn't damage the grass, and it would still leave burnt spots on the turf. And so we learned early on, we thought we'd do an experiment. And so we had like a slip and slide area and 3 pools for the birthday party that we'd had. And so we treated all the spots except for one with the humate. Oh, okay. Just to experiment and see what happens. It recovered in half the time. Oh, okay. So the spot that didn't get treated took twice as long to recover as the spots that we did treat. And so the humate and probably like a Hydrotain or the Back to Green product, if you want to like get your grass to recover quicker where it's been burnt, it will recover in half the time. Great combination. That much of a difference. Yeah. So instead of like taking 5 weeks for it to recover, it only took 2.5. Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay. So much quicker. Great. Yeah, so much quicker. All right. Well, let's go out to the phone lines. Charles joining us on the line. Charles, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a question for Mark about a Tecopia tree, and I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it right. It has big, giant elephant ear leaves. Are you familiar with that?
A catalpa.
Okay.
Yep.
That's great. Thank you for
catalpa. It's a catalpa tree. Yeah. Yes, there's actually some really beautiful ones here in the valley, and they do come in a couple different sizes. So there's like an umbrella catalpa that is smaller. It only gets maybe 10 feet tall, and it weeps. So it's a weeping catalpa. And then there's some standard ones that they get pretty big. They'll get 40 to 50, maybe even 60 feet tall. And they have really big leaves on them. And they're very cool trees, very resilient. And they actually make good urban trees because they can handle the heat really pretty well. They can handle the pollution that we get sometimes in the city compared to out in the country. And so it's a pretty resilient tree for urban areas.
Well, my question is, I guess mine's a weeping one because the branches are coming out and they're draping down.
Yes.
But it was it was like a stick in the ground about 8 feet tall. Now it's about 20 feet tall, all in one, just this year. And it just has a little spindly, 3.5 inch trunk. And I have just tons and tons of branches coming off of this, and it looks like it's really thriving, and it's actually scaring me. It's overgrowing itself, and in the winds, it's going to get broken off.
Very possible. Very possible.
So I tied some ropes to it, gently tied it back a little bit in case the winds come. When I prune this, should I prune a lot of the stuff? It has a little long, they look like cigars hanging down.
Yes,
it's got tons of those.
Yep.
And
those are like its seed pods, and they look like big long beans.
Right.
Yeah, they look like beans.
And so how would I trim this in the fall so the wind doesn't absolutely destroy it?
I would definitely do some pruning if you've got a lot of excess growth. And with pretty much any tree, but especially with this one that's put a lot of growth out, we want to take those, what's called the terminal bud, off of those. So right where a branch grows out, on the very tip, there is a bud that's called the terminal bud. And that terminal bud will keep growing in that same direction if you don't trim it off. And so usually what we'll recommend is you go back maybe even 12 inches, or if you've got like excess growth, go 18 or even 24 inches back and find a leaf bud that is coming off on an angle. And you're going to prune back to one of those leaf buds, and you can encourage the tree to grow into a different direction instead of just growing straight out. You can get it to bush out a little bit more and thicken up in the middle. And so where you've got a lot of excess growth, prune back, 6, 12, 18, 24 inches to another leaf bud, and then it will get those branches to bush out instead of just keep growing farther out. And the longer those branches get, the weaker they are and the more likely they are to break in the wintertime. And so look for anything that's broken or damaged or excessive, like you've got a whole bunch of branches that are all growing kind of over the top of each other. Pick the best one and take the other 1 or 2 or 3 out and just kind of thin the tree out a little bit, and then trim back those terminal buds to get your tree to bush out a little bit more. And even if you need to, and it's just growing straight up really quickly, you could trim your central leader a little bit and get it to bush out a little bit more also, so it doesn't just continue to grow tall and fast. Yeah,
because it's just still growing. Every day I'm astounded. It's 3 feet taller now. By next week it'll be another 2 feet taller. Probably 25 feet tall.
So on our website we have our fruit growing guide, and in the fruit growing guide it has the pruning guide. And that pruning guide has some really, really great information in there. There's some nice pictures that show you how to identify the terminal bud and the lateral buds and the leaf buds. And it shows you where to prune to get it to branch out and to get it to grow in a different direction than it's growing. So there's some really great instructions there. And if you're still struggling, come in. I'll help you with it.
Okay, it's kind of the tree that's going to eat New York.
Yes, yes, they do. And
grow. I like it so. Yeah, I like it so much. Is there any place I can buy them?
The catalpas. I usually carry catalpa, and I think we've sold all of ours this year. And I'll get some more in for next year. They are great trees. I really like them, but they are fast growers and they do get pretty big. So.
Yeah, there was some down in Lagoon.
Yeah.
They were like 55 feet tall.
Oh,
and they look like they are from Australia, or they look like they're from Africa. They were just so amazing.
A really unique tree. Yeah, very unique tree.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thank you. I will trim my tree before it covers my house and consumes it.
Great plan, Charles. Yeah, great plan.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great weekend.
You too.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, and Sharon's holding on the line. Sharon, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I have a question, and maybe you've already answered it because I just came on your program just now, but we have tomato bushes that are just, or tomato plants that are just covered with green tomatoes.
Yes.
And we cannot get them to ripen. And we saw a thing where you went in and you pruned off the very top little, because it keeps growing and putting out buds. So we pruned those off, but we're still not getting any red tomatoes.
Okay, there's a couple things we can do to get them to ripen up. And this is what I do first part of August. So here we are. Cut your water back. And so if you were watering every 2 or 3 days, push it an extra day or two if you can, and let the plants kind of wilt a little bit in between waterings. We don't want to kill them, but we're going to force them to realize that fall is coming and they need to ripen up. And so we're going to stress them just a little bit. So I was watering about every 3 days. Now I'm going about every 4 to 5. And so we're just going to let those plants stress just a little bit, and that will help ripen them up. A calcium type product would really help too. So calcium is used regularly on tomatoes to help with blossom end rot. And so I've got it in a trigger sprayer you can spray the plants with. I've got it in a concentrate. You can mix it up and put it in your own sprayer and spray the plants with it. The calcium actually helps them ripen up faster as well too. So using calcium on the tomatoes will get them to ripen quicker. And so it would not hurt to spray them with calcium or calcium and a magnesium combination. So there's some good options there, and they're very inexpensive to use, and it really helps ripen that fruit up quicker. So cut back the water, calcium product on there, and then I will, especially when it starts to get cool at night, like it has been the last couple nights. Use a little bit of frost cloth on them at night to retain the heat that we generate during the day. And so the tomatoes take longer to ripen through the fall when we start getting much cooler nighttime temperatures. And so if you can put that over the plants, like say 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, so it can generate a little bit of heat, and then leave those cloths on overnight, and then you take them off in the morning, it will retain the heat overnight, and the tomatoes will ripen up a lot faster. And so between those 3 things and the pruning that you've done already, those are all the things that you need to do to get those to ripen quicker.
So now we just pruned. So should we have done that earlier? Because we've got all this, we have not had a ripe tomato, and here it is.
Yeah.
August.
Yep.
And I would have hoped we could have had one in July.
Yeah. Normally we are harvesting a few tomatoes in July, but August and September is when they usually come on the most. And this year, where we have had a cooler summer and a drier summer, seems like they're a little bit later coming on. So it seems like my tomatoes have been a little slower to produce as well too. But I planted them after Memorial Day too, so I was a little bit slow getting stuff planted. But mine are really coming on like crazy, and so no more fertilizer. So don't feed them anymore. And then you've already pruned, so that's great. Cut the water back. So we're going to extend our watering at least 1 day, maybe 2 if you can. Let them wilt a little bit. And then when they look kind of wilty, then go ahead and water them thoroughly, but then just kind of let them stress a little bit in between. Spray with the calcium, and if you need to, use the covers at night to generate some extra heat. So.
Okay, I have one question. So we flood irrigate where we live.
Yeah.
And so we do it every 7 to 8 days. So.
Okay.
Is that a good
That's great.
time, or should we just watch and let them wilt down before we water them?
If you're only watering once a week, it's perfect. Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. Hopefully we'll get some tomatoes coming.
I got my fingers crossed for you, Sharon. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the call, Sharon and Charles, and the other questions that we had earlier in the show. We've got just about 90 seconds left. Mark, a quick reminder that the cash sale going on today.
Yep.
And compost tea about 2 weekends left.
Yep. So next weekend, we will probably run out of compost tea. So if you want to get your last refills in, now's the time to do it. And then cash sale is going on right now. So all of our nursery stock, trees, flowering trees, fruit trees, shrubs, evergreens, roses, they're all 25% off right now. And if you pay with cash, you get an extra 10% off. So if you're paying with a credit card, a lot of companies are starting to charge you a surcharge for the credit card. Well, we're going to give you bonus discount for paying cash.
All right.
So instead of paying with a credit card, pay with cash, and you're going to get 10% off our remaining nursery stock. And there's some gorgeous trees, some really good looking shrubs. There's some great looking roses. We've got a lot of really, really, really nice looking plants, and it's a perfect time to plant from now until November.
All right.
And so let's do some planting.
Excellent. Yeah. And if you missed a portion of the show, you can always go back and listen to the Garden Guide by visiting our website, kvnutalk.com, just clicking on the podcast library. And join us again next week for the Garden Guide here on KVNU, and have a great weekend.
Covering all the news. Stay with 610 AM and 102.1 FM. Breaking news and stimulation.